Late at night, it's easy to notice how dark and exposed a driveway or garden can feel. Leaving lights on constantly isn't ideal, and many outdoor cameras struggle with limited coverage or unclear footage. Well, Reolink have brought out an all-in-one solution for exactly that. This is Reolink's Wi-Fi Elite Floodlight security camera. At first glances, it just looks like a floodlight with a camera stuck in the middle, but after using it a bit, I realized it's doing a lot more than that. The video's 4K, the view is super wide at 180 degrees, and the lights are bright enough to light an entire space. On top of that, the AI is smart enough to tell whether it's a person, a car, or just the neighbor's cat wandering through. After a while, I stopped thinking of it as just another camera and more like an all-in-one guard for the outside of your house. But at a current asking price of £199, it's certainly an investment. So is it something that appeals to the average consumer? So the burning question is this product truly worth that asking price? Well, let's first start by unboxing it. Unboxing this thing, and the first thing you'll notice is how simple everything is. The main unit makes up most of the box. You've got two built-in LED panels on either side and the camera in the middle. It's pretty chunky and has a bit of weight to it, which honestly feels reassuring for something that's going to live outdoors. Everything about it looks tough and weather ready. You get the usual mounting bits and a quick start guide. But really, the star of the show is just the unit itself. It is really an all-in-one product. There's really not much to it. So I guess the best thing to do is get this up and running and see just what it's all about. Honestly, getting it fitted wasn't too bad. I was lucky enough to just be able to swap out an old security light I've had for years, and the wiring was pretty straightforward. But obviously, this isn't your standard portable battery-powered option. You will need to hardwire this in. That may put off some people, but I think like with any product like this, a hardwired option can always be more beneficial in the future. Really, the trickiest part was just getting to heights on a ladder and then tightening everything up. But once in place, it felt nice and solid. So in terms of installation, I would say it's not super easy, but certainly reliable once in. Now that 180-degree view turned out to be way more useful than I expected. My garden's pretty average in size, but normally I'd need at least two cameras to cover everything. With this, one unit caught the whole space. It certainly is a wide piece of space. You do have a lot of coverage here. I did place it in front of my house for a little bit, but I don't really have a driveway to utilize it completely, and it is really meant for that. In the daytime, the picture quality really did surprise me. It is proper sharp. I could easily zoom in to cars' number plates from quite a distance and still read it without any effort. Same really goes for when installed in my garden. You really are able to zoom in and retain quite a bit of detail. Even when cars drive past quickly, the video didn't fall apart into a blur. It stayed crisp enough that I could see every detail. I have had cameras before where anything moving just turned into a smudge, so this did feel like a big step up. One thing I did notice though, when the sun's low and really bright, you can sometimes get a bit of glare on the image. It's not a big deal breaker, but worth knowing if you're pointing it straight towards where the sun usually sets. Now, in terms of that floodlight performance, nighttime is really where this thing shows off. The spotlight on this thing is very impressive. It's kind of replaced the need for an exterior light source. Not only are you getting that camera footage, but you can actually use it as an external light source. At 3000 lumens, it is not a joke. 1 second it's pitch black, the next it's like midday. And the camera doesn't miss a beat, everything comes through crystal clear. I messed around with the available lighting modes a bit too, and the warm setting actually makes the garden feel quite cozy. I ended up using that quite a bit more just purely because it's a bit more subtle for the neighbors. However, when I wanted it in full security mode, I just switched back to the cooler white lights, and this certainly gives off a more serious high security vibe. The switch between them both is smooth and it doesn't feel jarring at all. What I really like though is that you're not locked into just blindingly bright lights. You do have the ability to dim it down quite a bit and find a sweet spot that works for you. If you are going to have this on a driveway, let's say, this is going to come in extremely handy, as you really aren't going to want to have this on full brightness if you're close to your neighbors. It can feel quite intrusive. But either way, it's nice that you have that customization. You can really dial this in to what works for you. Using it as a standard light, you can turn the brightness down, and then for motion detection for security reasons, having it as a blindingly bright light will certainly deter people. The motion detection on this thing has actually been a lot better than I expected. You get a lot of pings coming through on the app, and yeah, it seems to be rather accurate. The cool part is it will label if it's a person, not just motion. It sounds like a small thing, but it stops all those pointless notifications you usually get with less smart cameras. Even with cars, this thing will straight away snap on that floodlight, while the app flags it as a vehicle. Even with cars, you get to choose whether or not you want the floodlight to turn on when it detects one, and then the app will flag it as a vehicle. So you can really decipher the difference between a person and a car. You obviously can play around with sensitivity to ensure you're not getting flagged for all vehicles, and you can also turn vehicle detection off if you only want human security. It is also clever enough to decipher the difference between animal detection too. I have many neighbors with cats, and this does help, as instead of freaking out and spamming me with notifications, it just marks it as an animal. That little bit of intelligence makes a big difference for day to day. You're also getting pings on different movements, all with their corresponding information right on the app. And that also comes into play with that floodlight. If it's the kind of detection you don't want the light to come on with, like animal or cars, you can turn that off. I also played around with the zones. Within the app, you can set up a virtual fence around an area so you can get a ping whenever activity occurs within those boundaries. If you don't have a private driveway of your own or live in a heavily populated area and want to give your neighbors a little bit of privacy, this certainly is going to come in very handy. It just helps to minimize alerts too, as you're only getting alerted of activity within your set zone. Once again, once you've got all these settings tweaked, you can really customize how this security and floodlight works for you, just minimizing the need for constant light turning on and that security footage capturing things you simply don't need. What's really nice is that it runs all locally, so you don't have to pay for a subscription or worry about sending data off somewhere. The app itself is pretty loaded with features, and at first it feels a bit overwhelming, but after a couple of evenings messing around with the settings, it started to click a little. From there, I could play with the brightness of the lights, as I said earlier, change the color tones, set up those zones, and of course flick back through moments where movement was detected. I have to admit, over the past couple of weeks of using this thing has settled into my routine without me really noticing. Now, there are a few things to keep in mind though. First, the unit is big, and once it's set up, you're not exactly hiding it. I personally like that because it makes a strong visual deterrent. But if you're after something discreet, this really isn't it. And the Wi-Fi model also needs a solid connection. I had to move my router a little closer to the driveway when filming in that location, and then move again when trying in my garden, just to get the smoothest stream. Without that, the 4K footage can stutter a bit when you're streaming the footage, but it's not exactly the camera's fault. But it is worth knowing you will need a strong connection. And like I said earlier, the app can feel a bit overwhelming at first. There are lots of menus and options, and it takes a little bit of time to figure out what's going on. But once you've spent a bit of time with it and dialed it in, it actually works really well and makes controlling the camera a breeze. Now, all in all, the Reolink Elite Floodlight is one of the most complete security setups I've actually used. It's not just a camera with a light stuck on top. It's a proper combo of bright lighting, sharp 4K video, and smart AI detection. It's definitely one of the most capable floodlight cameras I've tested. And with that all being said, be sure to check this product out in the link in the description. Let me know what you think, and as always, till next time.